Hi, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a slow minor key blues where we start on the 4 chord, and I'll explain what that is as we get into this. But this is something that's fairly easy to do. I would say that this lesson would be for beginners to intermediate players. If you want to jump into learning to play blues, this would be a great lesson to start with. And I've got the lesson split into 3 levels. So level 1, we're going to go through the chords. There's just 3 chords, but I'm going to show you how that I'm playing that. And actually, just the chords on their own sound pretty awesome. You can do this on an acoustic or electric guitar. Level 2 will be playing the chords with some fill licks. So you'll be playing little lead parts in between the chords. So you're kicking it up a notch. And then level 3 would be playing the lead part. And I'll explain what scale I'm using and all of that. So we'll break all of the material down throughout the course of these videos. So it's going to be split into these 3 parts. So in this video, we're going to take a look at part 1, or level 1. If you'd like to watch the other 2 parts, as well as download the MP3 jam track so that you can practice along and have access to the on-screen tab viewer and be able to download and print off your tablature for this lesson for all 3 parts, you can get that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP142. So let's go ahead and get started with level 1, or part 1. Alright, let's talk through the structure of this, and then we'll get into all the specifics of how to play everything. The way that I think of this is it's in this key of F sharp, and it's just a 1-4-5 blues, just like any other blues that we're used to. The difference is the 1 and the 4 are going to be minor, so it'd be a minor 1 and a minor 4. So your F sharp, that's the key we're in, that's your 1 chord, that's a minor chord. Your B is also a minor, so your 4 chord is a minor. The 5 chord is a dominant 7 with a sharp 9 in it, and I'll explain what that is in just a minute. Some people call that the Hendrix chord. But so anyway, that's the chord structure. It's just a 1-4-5. Now, what makes it different is we start on the 4 chord. So you're starting here. That may throw some of you for a loop. If you were trying to play lead, for example, some people assume that whatever that first chord is in a song, that's the key that the song is in, and that is not the case in something like this. So that's the 4 chord, then it resolves on the 1 chord. So that's really where, if you're playing your lead, you'd be in F sharp. Okay, so that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of the structure of this thing. Now let's get into the specifics. So we start on the 4 chord, and I'm playing this fingerstyle, so I'm not using a pick. Now I know I said in the intro, for those of you that are pick players and you don't want to deal with fingerstyle, just strum it. But I recommend trying this fingerstyle because this kind of thing just sounds so cool. Fingerstyle, it's very laid back, and this is not Merle Travis, Chet Atkins fingerstyle. This is pretty easy to do. So the first chord we're going to make is this. It's actually a B minor 7 chord. And the way that I'm making it is I'm barring all 6 strings here on the 7th fret, and then I have my ring finger down on the 9th fret 5th string. Now, technically, you don't even need to put your ring finger down, because when you're playing this fingerstyle, what you're going to do is you're going to hit the 6th string, and then with these 3 fingers, there we go, these 3 fingers on string, we're going to line up on string 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to pluck like that. So it sounds like this. And you can see what's happening there. The thumb covers your thumb is always your bass player when you're playing fingerstyle. So your thumb's on your bass strings or your low strings. So there's your thumb, and then you pluck these 3. So it's, and then I'm going to hit my thumb twice, and then hit this one more time. So it goes. Now you can see another little point. Is what's controlling the amount of note ringing out is the amount of pressure I'm putting here. So I can release even though I keep my finger in place, and that shuts off the note from ringing out. So it's a combination of doing that with your right hand. You can actually see the pressure being released here with this hand. So that's kind of the feel or the groove here. Now obviously you would want to use your ring finger here if you were strumming this with a pick, because you want to get that minor 7 sound. Okay, so it starts in the 4 chord with that. Then watch this. Comes right down to the 1 chord. Now it's the same exact chord shape. The only difference is now we're barring the 2nd fret. And the way that I get to it is I play a little bit ahead of the beat. So I do the pluck there, strings 2, 3, and 4 with these 3 fingers, and then I hit the bass. So going back, we have, you can see how that playing this kind of leads you into where the bass note would be. And the bass happens right on the 1. So you have, sounds really cool. Even if you just had those 2 chords, I mean, you could sit and just jam on that for a long time. So just try going back and forth between those 2 chords using that fingerstyle rhythm pattern, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. Okay, so after we play the F sharp minor, I went, or it's actually an F sharp minor 7. I went, did this little kind of lead thing, and then really that's just I got this from Eric Clapton. He does this a lot if he's playing a minor chord. You'll hear it in a song like Old Love. But what I'm doing is, if you think about where this is in reference to the chord, it's just like taking the chord and then I'm hammering on to the 3rd string on the 4th fret, and I'm plucking strings 2 and 3. Then I release it and just play the strings 2 and 3 behind this bar here, so that would be fretted on the 2nd fret. And then I bring it down on the 4th fret, 4th string. Now, the way that I did my hand was I didn't keep the bar down, I just went like this. But that's all that is, it's just playing around that chord. So remember that as you start to become a better guitar player and look for little embellishments to chords. If you're playing a minor chord, that's a great way to just, that lead works itself right around a minor chord. If you're using this chord shape, you can do it no matter what chord you're playing. So just start to remember these things and file them away, so that when you are in a jam session or whatever, that's what you do. That's one thing you can do when you're playing a minor chord. All right, let's back up. So we have, now after that, I hit the open 5th string, or the A string. So I went, and look how it transitions right back to the 4 chord. So it almost sounds just like a bass player would do. You can start to feel that groove developing as we add to it. So the second time through, I came up here and went just the same as we did the first time, and then I came back down here to the F sharp minor 7, and this time I went. That's how we're going to get back. Now, that's basically the same thing we just learned as this. We're just doing it down a set of strings. So now we're going to bar the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret, and I'm going to pluck strings 3 and 4. I'm going to hammer onto the 4th fret, 4th string. So you got that. And then I come down with my ring finger to the 4th fret, 5th string, and do a slide down to the 2nd fret. So, and then it's easy because you just take your finger off and you play that open A string. And that is the little lick that gets you back to the 4 chord. So what's nice about that is this A note is a natural note that would be in the scale of F sharp, so you can get right back to that 4 chord by playing that open note. It allows you to take your hand off the fretboard and reposition it, so it goes. See that? Let me do it slowly. So you have just enough time while that A note is ringing out to get right back up here and reset the whole thing. Alright, let's back up. From the start we have. Now this third time through I played it just the same up here. And But down here I went. So pretty easy, keeping the bar there on the 2nd fret. I just put my pinky down on the 4th fret 1st string to create that, and then I took it off. Okay, and that's just, each time I'm trying to do something a little different, just to give you variety. That's another thing. All of these are takeaways, but that's another really common one if you're playing a minor chord, to add your pinky right there. Doesn't matter what chord. Gives you a little bit of a jazzy feel, somewhere between jazz and blues, and it's just, it works itself nicely into a groove like this. And I'm hitting all 3 strings, 1, 2, and 3 with these fingers. Okay, and now we get to that chord. That's a C sharp 7th. So think of just a C sharp 7 chord, dominant 7 chord. And now we're going to take the 9 and we're going to sharp it. So it sounds like this. And people call that the Hendrix chord. You know, he would use that like in the beginning of Purple Haze. So that's that chord. It's that sharp 9 that gives it that kind of weird, it doesn't seem like it wants to resolve to anything. It's kind of spacey, but that's what that chord is. So I thought it fit in here as I was coming up with this. So I hit that twice, and all I did when I made the chord, let me show you how to make the chord. That would help, right? So here, the way that we're doing it, it's this is the D7 chord shape. I use this all the time. You'll hear this in just about every lesson I do, it seems like. But if you know how to make a D7 down in 1st position, same little shape, but we're going to do it here so that our middle finger and ring finger are on the 4th fret, strings 5 and 3. And then our index finger goes down the 3rd fret, 4th string. So it's it's just like the bottom part of the C7 chord, right? And then you take this, or C sharp 7. You take your pinky and put it here on the 5th fret, 2nd string. It's really easy to do. Your pinky is just, it sort of naturally will fit into that spot. And that's that chord. And all I'm doing to play it is I'm just using my thumb, index, middle, and ring finger, and I'm getting those middle 4 strings and hitting it twice. It also sounds like Taxman from George Harrison or the Beatles. Okay, so then all that's left is this little turnaround lead part that goes. And let me show you where that's at. So that's in the minor pentatonic scale for F sharp. So remember, if we're making an F sharp chord, wherever we bar, that's our root fret. So this would be in pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for F sharp. If you don't know what I mean when I say pattern 1, there's a blues lead course available at Active Melody where I explain the 5 different patterns. And I refer to them all the time. So pattern 1 is right there. So when I went, that's where that comes from. So it actually starts with a pre-bend and a release. So what we're going to do is we're going to be on the 3rd string here, 4th fret, and I do a half bend, and I do the bend before I play anything. It's just called a pre-bend. And as soon as I pluck it, and I use this finger to pluck that string. That's another reason that it sounds nice to use fingerstyle on this, is you can do these little pops and plucks. And you get a different tone than when you're playing with plastic for this style of playing. So that's what I'm doing. Pre-bend release. It's not a full bend, it's just a half bend, which means you only go up 1 fret. That's the note you're trying to hit. Very slight bend. Then we're down to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. Back to the 4th fret, no bend on the 3rd string. So we have. Then there's the 2nd fret, 3rd string. So. Now watch this. Ring finger comes down to the 4th fret, 4th string, and I played that with my thumb, and then I played the open A string, which allows us to get right back up and loop the whole thing. So sounds just like that. And you may want to just practice doing that over and over again. Okay, let me back up and we'll go through all of the parts. This is hopefully something that a lot of you are able to latch onto and start doing right away. Start making some cool minor key blues. All right, here we go from the 4 chord. And then it just repeats. And that's what we have for level 1. So I'm calling that level 1. That's kind of the 101 that gets us into this. You can do that without the jam track, as I just did, and it sounds pretty awesome. It sounds even better, though, with the jam track. So if you've got that and you're able to practice with it, it helps you, it forces you to stay in timings. So for those of you that struggle with timing and when to come in and all of that, playing along with the band always helps. The band doesn't wait. It just keeps going, so you have to jump on the train and stay on it. All right, so that's level 1. If you want to watch level 2, where we're going to add the fill licks in between what we just learned there, so jazzing it up a little bit, and then level 3, which will be playing a whole solo, you can get all of that over at Active Melody. So we'll see you in those parts.